Okay, testing audio. One, two, three. Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Good afternoon. We welcome everyone to the Program and Policy Committee meeting. It is 5:36 p.m. in the afternoon here in the De La Garza room. Something new? Yes. Everybody okay? Everybody comfortable? Okay. So we call the meeting to order. Give me a minute. I'm gonna go by what I can remember. Jackie Levin Ramos present. Ernestina Tita Vela, she's absent and she notified us. Erica Garcia, she's on her way. And Lizzie Newsom? Present. Present, thank you. And we do have Mr. Rangel present.
Present.
Ex parte or on the
Yes,
side.
on the side.
Thank you. Number 3 is act on board policy CAK local appropriations and revenue sources, investments from TASB board policy update number 48. Mr. Cesar Vela?
Good afternoon, members of the committee. For the record, Cesar Vela, VP of Finance and Administration. This first item is to request for the board to review and take action on board policy CAK local appropriations and revenue sources investments based on the recommendations from TASB board policy update 48. This policy is also required to be reviewed annually by the board by the Public Funds Investment Act. So for this particular policy on update 48, there is only one recommended change from TASB, and that is on section 4.4, authorized dealers. They are adding a requirement that the brokers and dealers and the distributors of investment pools be registered with the Texas State Securities Board and also be members in the Securities Investor Protection Corporation. Also for investment pool administrators, they're asking that they be in good standing with the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. All of these requirements are reviewed when we go out for bids by our consultant, Valley View. So right now, we do have a list of authorized broker dealers, and they're listed on section 4.4 of the policy. Those are FHN Financial, Hilltop Securities, Mishler Financial, Samco Capital Markets, Pershing Advisor Solutions, Cresta Advisors, and Wells Fargo Securities. And again, when we identify transactions or investment opportunities, all this information is submitted to Valley View Consulting, which is our investment consultant, who then goes and vets that the brokers meet all the required qualifications as listed on policy CAK local. As far as the other changes, the other two changes are to section 6.1, open meeting, and that is just to reflect the date of the meeting of when the board reviewed the changes to the policy. And that will be March 26th of 2025, which is the regular scheduled board meeting for this month. And then section 6.2, again, just a modification to update the date of the effective date of when the policy became effective. So again, the three modifications, section 4.4, section 6.1, and 6.2. Any questions on any of the items?
The item is 6.1, 6.2, 6.1, and 4.4. This was the same item that we had talked about a month ago or 2 months ago, right?
That is correct. Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
So these are the recommended changes that came with the policy update 48 from TASB.
And did you mention where that list was of the requirements of the brokers and dealers?
Yes, it's section 4.4 of the policy. On
Oh, I
section,
see it up above. Okay.
yes, it is highlighted on your packet. It should be in blue, the item that was added by the latest update.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
Well, there's a resolution that needs to be read.
That is correct. And I'm not sure, do,
Rusty, does the resolution have to be read here or at the general board meeting?
The general board. The best practice would be to read it, if
Will
that's
you be,
acceptable, at the board meeting.
providing that?
It's here.
It's
it's in the agenda item, but we will be providing the resolution that needs to be signed by the president and the secretary of the board.
Should we have it read today as well, or no?
I don't think you need to.
okay. So it's the motion to, it's going to be a motion to pass this plus the resolution? Two separate
Adopt the
things?
resolution that will, that reflects that the board reviewed the policy for the year. So this is an annual requirement under the Public Funds Investment Act.
Any other questions, comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you,
No,
Mr. Vela.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Item number 4 is adoption of amendments to the Laredo College Board of Trustees operating procedures based on recommendations presented during the board retreat. Before we begin discussing these items that we are going to be working on for a procedural manual, with all due respect to our administrators, if you do not want to stay, you do not have to stay. I spoke to to Dr. Ramirez. This deals with the Board of Trustees and how we are going to continue to update our procedural manual. So if you would like to stay, you are more welcome to stay. I don't want to hold anyone back, and the discussion is mainly going to be about us. So, but I did want to relay that information with all due respect in case anyone wishes to, conclude with this program and policy meeting, but I will not frown upon you staying. Okay, with all that said and done. I provided everyone on this committee and Dr. Ramirez the policy meeting agenda that I have prepared for everyone. I did type it myself. We start off with several items, and I'm hoping that you have a copy of the booklet. And I'm going to, if we look at the list, it is quite a lengthy list. I would like to, however, bring information to you all. The red is going to be, the items in red are going to be items that we have taken from recommendations from Mr. Cruz, who was contacted from Mr. Rangel, our chairman, to provide us with some further instruction on how to build our procedural manual. So our procedural manual, as you all know, was voted on in October of last year. It had been a work in progress for about maybe 3 or 4 years. We had been building up on putting it together. And finally, and I have to say after Dr. Ramirez came on board, that we really pressed on it so that we could work together as a group collaboratively and make sure that the procedural manual is a guidance for us, for the trustees. And that's why I began the meeting began the item before saying that if the admin did not want to stay, they did not have to stay, because this is something that is of interest to everybody, but mostly and main priority is us. So we are deliberating, reviewing, adding, removing, putting things that gives us this sort of guidance for us and for future boards that come to this, to our Laredo College. So with that in mind, I want to take you through the agenda item before, and then we're going to go over it, and then we'll discuss it. And if there have any questions or any concerns, we'll talk about it today. Okay. The red ones indicate that they are brand new items that have been suggested and placed on this agenda meeting. And also the blues are minor changes, additions, reviews that we're going to go over right now. And none of this is new to us as a committee, because all of this was presented at the board retreat that took place in January. So if you take a look, we have page 8 and 9 is board composition, length of terms, and eligibility, reference from LC policies, BBA legal. This information is taken from this policy. So we're going to look at that one right now. Go to the next red one, page 16, member decorum and social media policy, new policies and procedures. Turn the page around. At the very bottom of the page, page 31, expressing concerns about another member's performance. Page 32, violation of board operating procedures. Page 35, Laredo College Board confidentiality agreement. So I want to make sure that everybody understands the red ones are going to be a little bit longer than the blue ones. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the blue ones first, and then come back and make sure that we're adding these items. So your feedback is very important. Your comments, your suggestions, your concerns, your issues, anything that revolves around this is our tool to make sure that we work together collaboratively and be able to provide ourselves with some guidance. Okay? So questions, Ms. Newsom, Ms. Garcia? No? We're doing okay? Okay, awesome. So we're going to go first. Page 2 is your table of contents on the board, on the book. So page 2 actually tells you what has been changed. And red ones, again, are the bigger ones. Our policy procedure manual ensures we, as a board, are properly overseeing the management of our board. With so many of us on the board, it's important to provide direction to our current and future trustees. And it's an honor and a privilege for me to be able to be part of this, to put this together and to work collaboratively with my colleagues, because it says a lot about us as a team. And it says that we are all on the same track. We want what's best for ourselves and for our team as a unit. Okay, so we're going to go to page 11. The first one is page 11. If you take a look at page 11, we talk about the collaboration between the board and the college president, advocate, create, provide, establish, support, ensure, and evaluate annually. Does anybody have any issues or any concerns? This is a collaboration between the board and the college president. If you feel that this is adequately placed in this section, we just put a check mark on it and we have a discussion. Any discussions on page 11?
So what's in green is just something that's new that's added, or?
We just changed it, ensure the college operates in compliance. That was already listed on the policy.
Okay.
And then the red is what we added differently, just so that we could work together. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Oh, Mr. Muir.
Madam Chair, so in the hard copy,
Mhm.
we have tracking that, at least my hard copy, that's in blue and in green.
And in green.
And agreed. Okay.
So the blue, if you look at the blue text, that is what Attorney Juan Cruz recommended that the Board of Trustees add to its board operating procedures.
Okay.
The green tracking in the hard copy is modifications that I made and some additions. So most of what you're going to see here that Ms. Ramos will review is going to be what Mr. Cruz suggested with some tweaks I made. But I think Ms. Ramos is referring to the board operating procedures that are shown on the screen in front of you.
Yeah.
And so
It's
you see
different
red
color.
text, it's
Yeah.
different colored text.
It's a different color in our.
So
book.
red there, but blue here, and then the green is what was already in place.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Okay.
yes, Madam Chair.
Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On annually evaluate board and college president leadership, governance, and teamwork, are you referring to the self-evaluation of each board member?
Yes.
And just that annually, I think board comply with the self-evaluation and the evaluation of the college president. Because I don't see it stipulated, because it is in your policies that you will do a self-evaluation. And so that might be a annually
Annually comply with board self-evaluation.
and college president's evaluation of leadership, governance, and teamwork.
Thank you very much. And annually comply with college president.
Evaluation of, well, because we're evaluating, you evaluate yourselves and me on leadership, governance, and teamwork.
Okay, so we're to annually comply with board self-evaluation and
And evaluate college president, the college president
mhm,
of leadership, governance, and teamwork.
okay,
Just a little
that's just gonna be the last line.
grammatical
Okay.
insert there.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. So the last line is going to be modified, so make a circle on that, a dot, because that one's gonna change, and it's going to read, annually comply with board self-evaluation and evaluate the college president of leadership, governance, and teamwork.
Okay.
Okay, we're good?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is page 11.
Okay.
Any issues, any concerns, any comments on page 11? If not, we put a check mark on that one. And
Okay.
we've done our duty on this part.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The next item is page 12, board officers. We're going to be adding the duties of our recently elected parliamentarian and the procedures for the board officer elections. So on that page 11,
Mhm.
where
Page
it
12, no?
says, page 12, I'm sorry. The parliamentarian shall advise members of the board and officers on parliamentarian procedure. Points of parliamentary procedure are addressed to the board president, who will consult with the parliamentarian as needed. Any board member may be nominated. So right there, you're going to put a little arrow that says board officer elections. Okay? So they can put that in there for us, because the two paragraphs that follow deal with how we elect our board officers.
Okay.
Yes? Okay?
We're here, board officer elections.
Mhm. And I'll share this notes with Ms. Bocanegra when we finish. So basically it says that any board member may be nominated for any board officer position. Existing board officers may be nominated to continue in the same position. And then the second paragraph just tells you the two-step process. We followed this two-step process when we nominated our officers this year. First, the board will receive nominations made by board members. Nominations for officer roles do not require a second. Each nominee must accept his or her nomination before being considered a candidate for a board officer position. And once nominations are closed, the board proceeds to vote by a show of hands. Because even though some of us had been here quite some time, some of us thought there was a majority or a motion. There's no motion in the board officer elections, okay? So it stipulates exactly the role and the procedure that we follow. So any questions on this particular one? This is page 12. Okay? So then this one is going to be a check mark on that one. The only thing that we added was board officer elections. Page 13, board committees. Each committee, the Student Success Committee, the Finance and Audit Committee, the Program and Policy Committee, and the Building Committee were not explained on the top part. So what we did is we added election of LC board officers. After each election of LC board officers, committee meetings are scheduled during the week of a regular monthly board meeting, usually beginning at 5:30. Each member of the board shall sit on at least one, but no more than two committees. I would like to add one line there. So everybody has to help me with this line, because I feel that sometimes we do have meetings at noon, like we are having this week. So I would like to come up with a sentence that says, even though most of them are at 5:30, some of them could be changed to accordingly to the schedule or whatever
Could we
happens.
say something like on occasion, due to,
Scheduling conflict?
scheduling conflict? On
How about-
occasion?
How about if we just remove the time and just the way it's worded, that a meeting should be scheduled prior to the regular board meeting. That way it's given, you're not setting
Oh, yeah.
a day, You're not setting a
Okay.
time.
Okay.
As long as, and we could just.
During the week.
During the, as, all we have to say is something about, like, as long as a committee meeting should be scheduled.
During the week of a
prior-
regular
no,
month.
Prior to the regular board meeting. Because like for this week, we're having, because even if we say a week before, we're still locking up ourselves because this week we're meeting Monday, Tuesday, and the meeting's already on Wednesday.
Mhm.
So I think that way we don't handcuff Ms. Bocanegra or Dr. Ramirez on a certain day.
Okay.
So
I'm okay
I
with that.
suggest that we remove the sentence that reads, committee meetings are scheduled during the week of a regular monthly board meeting, usually beginning at 5:30 PM.
Yes.
Just
And
take
we-
that out.
Take it out.
Just usually beginning at 5:30 goes out.
Yeah.
A regular monthly board meeting, period.
Period.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's it.
So we are gonna add,
You don't need to add anything.
don't need to add anything, right?
No.
After each LC board officers. Each member of the board shall sit on at least one, but no more than two committees.
You could add committee chair, the chair of each committee shall determine with the board with the board president on time and date.
The chair of each committee, because sometimes you don't need to have a meeting.
Right.
Exactly.
The chair of each committee shall confer with the
President,
president,
the board president, right?
mhm, with the board president,
And with the president of the college, no?
Yes.
Both.
With board president and college president, right?
and college president, mhm. On
On date and time?
date and time.
Mm-hmm.
Let me reread this again. The chair of each committee shall confer with the board president and college president on date and time of such meeting. Good?
Mhm.
Everybody okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then the rest of them are explained. So each one was explained and each one says where they meet on even numbered months and so forth. So meet is needed and so forth. Okay? Check mark on page 13?
Oh, no, one
No.
more, if I may.
Yes.
One more thing. Now, there may be so if we're not scheduled to have a student success meeting, or we're not scheduled to have a policy meeting on a particular month, and there is a need for us to have that meeting for whatever reason, I think we need to give ourselves the flexibility here, somewhere that says, or upon request by,
The chair of the committee should, because you'll contact the chair committee
right,
and you'll
or you, or the
I
board
could, yeah,
president.
or the president could, and just say, you know what, we need to, let's say we're not having a student success next month, but because of XYZ,
Right.
you know, Ms. Benavides is asking
I need
for-
approval
Right,
of
and it could be
reporting
on
that
an
has
odd
to be
number.
done,
Yeah.
or whatever.
So then would we just put
On,
and as needed or and?
Or as needed, because I think the program policy has or as needed, but the other ones don't, so you just might as well add it to the other ones.
Yeah.
so on the student success committee or
On
as
all
needed-
of them?
On all of them?
yeah.
Okay. So next two meet on Monday of even numbered months
Yes.
or as needed
Mhm.
on all of them.
Yes. Please.
Liz, you understand? So for each one, each of the bullets, it's gonna be or as needed,
Right.
Yeah.
okay? And then the sentence that we added was the one that we spoke about,
Yes.
okay?
May I go back to page 11? I'm sorry.
Sure, no, that's fine. That's what we're here for.
So on one of the blue bullets, we have support the professional development of administrators, professors, and other staff. The term we use in our HR directives is faculty. So it should be administrators, faculty, or staff, right?
Faculty/staff.
It should-
Administrators,
Faculty
faculty,
and staff,
and/or staff.
yeah. Well, and staff, I
And
think
staff.
is plenty.
Okay,
Is Veronica in the room?
Faculty, so
No,
right here
right.
we're
But
gonna-
that should cover everybody, right?
Okay.
Administrators, faculty, and staff, not professors.
not professors.
Because
Correct.
that's a title that's earned over a period of time based on their evaluations.
You're good. That's what we're here.
Okay,
Okay, very good.
thank you.
So page 13, we check it off.
Okay.
Page 14. I ask you to go to the second paragraph where it says board members should also be familiar with LC's board policies, which are available online at And it's just a hyperlink that we added, okay? So just a hyperlink, that's all that's there. Check mark on that one.
Yes, ma'am.
And we go to page 17 and 18. Page 17 and 18. Page 17 and 18 is called conflict of interest. The blue parts are the parts that were added. Board members owe a duty of loyalty to the college district, and board members must avoid any business activity that conflicts with the interests of the college district. For many years, there's been a confusion of conflicts of interest. I've seen it here and I've seen it in other organizations where like we tend to not look at ourselves as effective towards the institution, but we should be because we're the ones that are making the decisions. So if in fact it's effective towards us, then it's effective towards the college. So we have to help the individuals that are going to be part of the board to understand when and where we fall under that line. Okay, so I think this is really important. Board members' outside business interests, including passive or active investments, must not adversely affect the board member's duty to the college district. Further, board members must file a conflicts disclosure statement with respect to a vendor if the vendor enters into a contract with the college district or the college district is considering entering into a contract with the vendor and the vendor. A, has an employment or other business relationships with the board member or the board member's family member, and the business relationship results in the board member, a family member receiving taxable income or other than investment income that exceeds $2,500 during the 12-month period preceding the date that the board member becomes aware that a contract between the college district and the vendor has been executed, or the college district is considering entering into a contract with the vendor. May I give an example of what happened to me at one point? We had a vote on the TERS, and Killam was the person that group that was coming. Before I voted on it, in the middle, my sister got hired at Killam. So I went and I spoke to Rusty, and I initiated the conversation because I wanted to vote for this item that was going to be coming up. And I asked for clarification. So we got legal counsel involved on both sides, and they were able to let us know that my sister, who was employed with Killam, who was going to come before the board, was not being paid by the TERS. So that's how we were able to solve it. And I feel it's really important for me to say this because we never know when we're going to be in that same situation. And so I took it upon myself to find out how I could actively participate in this particular item on the agenda. I really wanted to because we had been working on it for a very long time. So I didn't want the employment of my sister, who I had nothing to do with, be a factor for me not being able to vote on it. So that was, and I'm very happy that this is part of that procedural manual. Letter B, has given to the board member or the board member's family member one or more gifts with an aggregate value of more than 100 in the 12 months preceding the date the board member becomes aware that a contract between the college district and the vendor has been executed, or that the college district is considering entering into a contract with the vendor, or has a family relationship with the board member, a gift accepted by the board member or the board member's family member that is political contribution under the election code, or food accepted as a guest does not require the filing of a conflicts disclosure statement. Any questions on the addition of the conflict of interest?
So, okay, let me see. So on this part, we have A, B, I mean, we have B, and then we have C, right? It has a family relationship with the board member. Then this is punto y aparte, separate, right? A gift accepted by the board member or the board member's family that is a political contribution under the election code, or food accepted as a guest does not require filling of conflict disclosure statement, right?
Right.
So either the gift or food.
Yes,
Is that what you're saying?
Because
yes, ma'am.
Because the gift would have already been reported during the political campaign.
Yes.
Okay.
Or should have been reported during the political campaign. Am I
Okay.
correct?
Yes, correct.
I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, that sounds good.
Questions? We're okay? So we put a check mark on page 17, conflicts of interest, explanation of conflict of interest. We can do that. Page 18 and the same one, vendor relations. So vendors and board members shall be prohibited from making oral or written contact with each other individually for the purpose of soliciting a purchase or contract relating to the college district business, or discussing an outstanding bid or proposal that a vendor has submitted or will submit to the college district between the time a request for proposal or a bid is formally released and a recommendation is made by the administration to the board. So this means that, again, without micromanaging, we don't get involved in the process of doing the bids and doing the purchasing procedural rules, because I know you have to follow them. If a vendor or board member violates the above prohibition during the applicable timeframe, consideration of the vendor for award of the bid or proposal shall be invalidated, and board members shall be notified of reported or known violations and possible actions that may occur. Those are the three that are being added under the vendor relations. Are we okay with that? We can comply? We all will comply. We all will comply. Okay? Ms. Newsom, we're okay? Yes, okay. Checking up on everybody, except Mr. Rangel, because
I'm just here.
he's just here. Page 19 and 20, board meetings. I draw your attention to this one because this one's going to be a big one. So, second paragraph, if a board member wishes to have an item on an agenda for a meeting, the member shall require a second board member to sponsor their written request that a subject be included on the agenda for a meeting to the board president and college president with a copy to the college district attorneys via email. At the present time, we have only one person making a request for an item, right? You put that in and then it goes to the president, to the board president, and they review it and they, he reviews it. He says, is it adequate timing? Is it an appropriate time? What this does is that it gets you, I want to say that without going into Open Meetings Act, it gets you another person that feels the same way that you do about putting this item on the agenda. And I think it's a positive thing. Because if I'm going to be blindsided and come here and put an item on the agenda and I have no support, then I'm going to look really bad, right? And this way you get another person that can help you. You want to kind of sort of like put the item on the agenda and it says, I have support, at least from one person for right now. I cannot get the rest of the support because I cannot do it before the meeting, but I can at least know that I can present it to the board president and tell him there's two of us that are willing to put our
That
names.
want something on this.
Mr. Rangel?
May I? Thank you.
Yes.
Just real quick, and the other reasons for it as well is because we feel, or I mean, the way speaking to Mr. Cruz, it's going to be able to have an open discussion for staff. And the reason for that is because I know staff goes above and beyond on getting the presentation going, getting a presentation for whatever the item that the board member wants. And what's going to happen, I mean, just think about it, the man hours that administration is going to have to put in for a presentation, let it be 2 slides, let it be 20 slides for a presentation. And then Esteban Rangel that put the item on the agenda doesn't even get a second to be able to allow staff to present. Mm-hmm. So I just think that that's a lot of time spent from our staff being able that Esteban Rangel is not going to get a second to be able to hear the presentation, and staff is going to be sitting there with their presentation that took them a day or 2 days to get it ready for us. So I just think it makes a lot of sense. So it could at least carry a conversation to the full board as a presentation. So that was one of the recommendations that Mr. Cruz gave. And for me personally, I sit in administration, so I report to a board. So you do spend a lot of time on a presentation and you want the board to hear your presentation. And if they're not going to even allow you to present, it's a lot of time spent. So I feel that it's very important.
Thank you. And I also want to reiterate that, like myself, I know that it's really hard for me to, for example, with the program and policy agenda. I know I wanted something for us to be able to guide, and I'm not going to ask Ms. Bocanegra to do this in the last 5 minutes before the meeting. I'm going to ask her with an ample time, but being that I have a lot of stuff going on at school, I make myself, like during lunch, I typed it out. So, and I told her, I'll make the copies for you. And, like I'll do that because I feel like as the chair of the committee, it is my duty to make things as easy as possible for my fellow colleagues. So when it comes time to putting items on the agenda, I think it's really important that we take into consideration all the factors that play, that come into play. And I'll give you another example. A couple of years ago, it was not with this board, but it was with a previous board. I was super happy about bringing an item on the agenda for a student trustee. So I did all my research, I got all my stuff together and everything else. I put the item on the agenda because I was so excited. I talked to the whole entire board, and then the entire board goes, no, because I don't think that's right. Mr. Rangel, you were not on the board yet, and Ms. Garcia, you were not on the board. Ms. Newsom, you were not. So I was super excited because I got all my paperwork and I did all my studies and I did all my research, and I went all the way to Alamo College and I got them to give me all this information. And then when it came time, it was like the votes were not there.
No second.
Yeah. Nobody seconded, nobody voted on it. I was like, but I did all this work. That's what it takes. You want to bring an item on the agenda, it's going to have to do the work. The majority of the work is going to have to come from the trustee. And mind you, I left that day, that meeting, very disappointed in myself because I could have gotten somebody else to help me do the backup and give me the second I second the motion.
But it does
Yeah.
make sense. It does make a lot of sense because you're right.
Yeah.
You know, you put a lot of time and effort into it. Not only that, that could be you. I mean, what happens if we have like each one of us wants to put something on the board,
Mhm.
and here we are asking all the administration, will you give me this? You know, I need this information from you, this information from you, and each one of us is doing that. That's just
That's
too
just too
much.
much. Mhm. Yes. And therefore,
I
we go
agree.
into the next item or the next sentence. It says, the college president shall be sure that backup materials are provided for each board meeting agenda item, and the information will be relayed to board members the Friday prior to the meeting. In the event the materials cannot be relayed to board members by this 72-hour deadline, the material shall be given to the board as early as possible prior to the meeting. So what it actually says is give everybody time. Like, I know we're busy and everybody's busy, but we need to remember that everybody has
A job.
a job. So we're all doing this. So that's what it means by this item. For action items, related and relevant information will be included with the backup materials. The board may, by consensus, remove an item from the agenda if sufficient backup materials are not provided in a timely manner, unless an emergency or urgent public necessity exists. Case in point, Mr. Vela, we had that item on the agenda, the one that we just talked about right now. We set it aside for this month. That's the way it works. So we were able to come back to it. We needed to add a little bit more. All personnel issues must be conducted in an executive session unless specifically required by the Texas Open Meetings Act. The consent agenda shall be items agreed to by the board president. Board members may call the college president with questions regarding consent agenda items prior to the meeting. If more discussion is warranted, that item may be pulled at the request of any board member and considered as an action item. Consent items may include all routine items, budget amendments, tax refunds, gifts, donations, and bequests, financial information, minutes of regular and special call board meetings, updates of board policy, routine personnel items, routine bid considerations, or items recommended by the college president. May,
We don't have to pull them out of consent.
no.
Sorry, we don't have to pull them out of consent. It's only if there is
They
a,
may be pulled at the request.
That
at
may
the
be-
request, and so there has to be a motion and a second to pull them out. Am I
Correct.
correct? All right.
Yes. And will we say that the consent agenda shall be items agreed to by the board president? Board members may call the college president or slash college or board president.
Board
Can we
president.
add that too?
Yes,
Okay, so college president,
it says here, items agreed to by the board president. Board members may call the college president or board president.
or board president,
Mhm.
or board president. Don't deny the phone calls. With questions regarding consent agenda. So we added or board president. Okay? Questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, yes, Chair recognizes Mr. Muir.
Just a very brief comment on this section, and going back to having a second be required in order to sponsor an item on the agenda. It's okay for two board members to talk. We always have to be aware of the walking quorum issue, because if you have two and then one of those two talk to three about the same item, next thing you know, you're violating the Open Meetings Act. So just caution,
But that was already discussed in it with this,
At the
so,
Yes, sir.
in the training, so
Absolutely.
we should know that, right?
Yeah,
We should know that if Jackie calls me, it's, if I call somebody else, it's already three.
You're
You know,
right.
So we already should know that. So, but it's a good point, but thank you, but we know that.
Board meeting agendas are posted at the Webb County Justice Center bulletin board, at the LC Alpha Lee West Building bulletin boards, and on the LC website and then there's that hyperlink right there. And in case we don't know and we need to advise someone, Elizabeth has to physically go and post at the Webb County Justice Center on the bulletin board. And also, do you file it with the county clerk? No, you just, the bulletin board. And at the bulletin boards on the LC and on the website. So those are the three places. So thank you for doing that. I mean, that takes a lot of time. We already did 19 and 20 board meetings. Check that off.
Mhm.
On the page 20.
Do we want, excuse me,
I'm
do
sorry.
we want to add the YouTube website for all of the video recordings of the,
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Oh, it is a good idea.
So right before it says board meeting agendas and meeting materials will be emailed to board members by the Friday preceding. Right below that one,
no, I'm talking about where you have the hyperlink where the trustees' agendas, %20 and %20
Mhm.
meetings.html on the website. I think you can also add the YouTube site so that if somebody wants to view the,
Board meeting.
right.
Or a board, to watch the
Well, don't you
board
think-
meeting,
But
or.
guys, don't you think that goes on the next part? Minute meetings and
Oh,
recordings?
yes, you're right. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
I think this is just for the agendas.
These are just the
Yes.
agendas.
thank you,
Correct.
ma'am. So now we go to page 20, meetings, minutes, and recordings. The Texas Open Meetings Act requires the board to either keep minutes or make a recording of its open meetings. The minutes or tape recording of the board's open meeting must be accessible to the public in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.022. The minutes of an open meeting must state the subject matter of each deliberation, indicate each vote, order, decision, and/or action taken, indicate each member's attendance at or absence from the meeting, reflect the board's acceptance or rejection of the college's president's recommendations for selecting college district personnel, reflect in the minutes of the last regularly scheduled board meeting held before an election of trustees, whether each trustee has met or is deficient in satisfying his or her required training as of the anniversary of the date of the trustee's election or appointment. If the minutes reflect that the trustee is deficient, the college district shall post the minutes on the college district's internet website within 10 business days of the meeting and maintain the posting until the trustee meets the requirements. Right below that, a video or the accessibility to the
To the
meeting.
YouTube site, yeah.
Okay,
We just
so,
need to get the right URL.
so accessibility to the,
The
LC
YouTube,
board
the
meetings.
YouTube link will be added right there.
okay, to the LC board meeting.
Mhm. Can be found at, and then you can put the YouTube
And I can
address.
look it up.
And then the YouTube address.
I think you should put, board meetings
Live
with an
meetings,
S, because you could also go back and find previous board meetings
Yes.
in the YouTube, so
Live
put board
meetings.
meetings.
Accessibility to the LC board meetings can be found at YouTube address. And then we'll just leave the address there.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions? Page 20, meetings, minutes, and recordings.
Okay.
And again, the minutes, again, I thank Ms. Bocanegra because she types all of that out and she listens to them and she writes everything, all the information down. Thank you so much. So that's a check mark on page 20. Page 21, conduct and order, addition of the Roberts Rules of Order for decorum in the meetings. Conduct of order, if during a meeting a board member violates Roberts Rules of Order, the following disciplinary procedures will be enforced. A, the board president or any member will ask for a recess and the president will talk privately with the offending board member. B, if the offending member continues to be in violation, the president will issue a public warning in open session. C, if the offending board member continues to be in violation, any member of the board may call for public censure, requiring a majority vote according to Robert's Rules of Order for disruption of a public meeting. Note, Differences of opinion, if respectfully submitted, are not to be construed as unacceptable behavior, but rather as alternative views on a subject and should be encouraged. Board members shall treat administrators, faculty members, or any college district employee participating in a board meeting with respect. The same level of respect shall apply in any public forum or social media platform. Discussion of any agenda item by the entire board shall not exceed 27 minutes, with each trustee allotted a total of 3 minutes to comment on each agenda item. The board president or presiding officer, at his or her discretion, may extend the amount of time that each trustee is allowed to speak, provided each trustee is allowed an equal amount of time. A board member may not yield his or her time to another member. Please highlight or circle or underline. This is really important. I think this is going to be added to this conduct in order. The minutes that we each have to comment on the agenda items. If we don't put this in place, the conversation continues and continues and continues. And then by the time we end up getting out of here, it's already 10, 11, or 12.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
And so for the total of 3 minutes, in other words, like if we would have a conversation and, oh, it's on.
It's on.
If we would have a conversation or something and I would speak for a minute, that would leave me with 2 minutes. I'm going to have a total of 3 minutes for the whole conversation.
Yes.
I mean, for that conversation,
For that
for that topic.
You just cannot give your minutes to somebody else.
Right, you can. Okay.
Like, let's say if none of us speak on it, we can all give our 3 minutes to that.
Right.
The 27 minutes.
The 27 minutes, yeah. The
Right.
total is the 27 minutes, so it's not going to
You might
exceed.
want to put it in writing. Don't-
It is in
Yeah.
writing.
It is. So if
Yes, it
we're
is.
able to
Okay.
provide that
If you're
direction
not
and
gonna
guidance,
casino.
yeah. So that, in other words, these are some of the changes, highlight some of the changes
Yes.
that take place as we go through them. Okay, 27 minutes. Questions on that?
No.
Did we say 27 minutes or do we want to
It
give
says
more
here.
time?
Well, I mean, it says there 27 minutes because it's 3 minutes.
3 times 9.
Yeah, but this could vary because if the chair allows 4 minutes each, well, then the 27 minutes changes. Because what it's saying here also is that if I give Jackie or Ms. Ramos 2 extra minutes, I have to give
Give
the
everybody
equal
else.
time to Ms. Benavides because she also might need additional time to move up to 5.
Mhm.
So that one's gonna be, I don't know how we.
May I
Yes.
just add something? One of the items to consider, so if you're going to limit a discussion to, let's say, 30 minutes, just to be fair,
Mhm.
not everybody speaks on a particular topic. And so some items take absolutely no time, and while other items may take additional time. And if a discussion ensues between 2 board members, you could consider changing it to something a little more, no item should take more than 30 minutes of discussion, in which case, if it is, then the item should be either
Passed or-
passed
tabled
or moved to the following meeting
Mhm. Okay.
for additional discussion. Only because if what you're trying to avoid is the long
meeting.
long meeting and therefore trying to manage the discussion time, instead of limiting individuals to 3 minutes, I think you limit the entire discussion of a particular agenda item to 27 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever that might be. Because if it's taking more than 30 minutes, then it needs committee work.
Yeah.
And it needs additional discussion, in which case it may require discussion between the board president and myself and the particular board member, or the board president and the attorney. And, there may be,
Would that leave the door open for the discussion to begin and for me to talk 10 minutes without
Yes.
having, that's what I'm trying to say, like.
yes,
that would-
and it may,
Uh-huh.
but let's say you speak for 5 minutes
Uh-huh.
and then you get a response from Mr. Rangel for 1 minute.
Uh-huh.
But then you go back and say, and want to
Answer my
continue and answer his question. So now you're not going to be allowed to answer the question?
And also it runs into
I'm-
time limit. You're going to have, somebody has to be timing everybody.
The parliamentarian.
I get that, but can you imagine?
Well, not if we do it the other way, that if we just say 30 minutes.
I
The
think
only
you
thing
just,
is
if
that-
you
The
cap,
parliamentarian feel, if we vote on it and we agree to it, and we say 30 minutes, then it's up to the parliamentarian to make sure that we don't go past the 30 minutes, okay?
Right.
And that it's open discussion and it's going back and forth, because some of these 27 minutes might go into question and answer from
From
administration.
staff,
From staff.
yes. And that's my point. So if you feel that 30 minutes is enough time to discuss a particular agenda item and would rather at that point then either give us direction to do more research for you
Mhm.
and then bring it back at the next meeting, or instruct each other that you're going to defer the item to the next board meeting and have it discussed at committee, or there should be some way to bring in new information or new data that will then support the discussion or not, one way or another.
Well, it does make sense because if we're, I don't know, let's say we're talking about curriculum, right? And Dr. Tijerina needs to answer, 2 or 3 questions that were brought up by the board. But then depending on the answer that she gives us, maybe I still have an additional question, but I'm already timed out. So I think, yeah, let's just lock it at 30 minutes.
So discussion of any, this is the way we're going to word it out. Discussion
Okay.
of any agenda item
In open meeting,
in open
in an
meeting.
in an open meeting, right, or an open regular meeting,
In an open meeting
because in executive session, it could take longer. So
by
it-
the
this
Yes.
entire board
Okay.
should not exceed
30 minutes.
should not exceed
30 minutes.
and I
30 minutes. Okay. Board parliamentarian,
So then, guys, we're gonna take off the next sentence, right?
yeah,
With the
board
trust-
parliamentarian will monitor the
Time limit.
time limit. Okay,
Here, so that at the end of the 30 minutes, there's several actions that could take place. And I don't know that you want to document this, but you call for the vote, you ask for more information from staff,
mhm.
or you,
Table the
no,
item,
you
or
defer the item
Yeah.
to another meeting.
So at end of 30 minutes,
Call for the vote,
a call of the vote,
defer.
defer, or request more information.
Or even table.
Or table.
What
Or
if-
you
what-
table it,
Yeah,
Or
what if
table.
you want to table it?
defer or table.
Those 3,
Defer or table.
right?
Once you table it, it's done.
Yeah, once you table it, it's done. Mhm.
Vote.
At end of 30 minutes, a call of the vote, defer or table,
No, yeah, if you defer, that means it'll come back. If you table it, it's gone.
it's gone.
But
Am I
Yes,
correct,
but-
Mr.
Mr.
Mira?
Mayor, Robert's Rules of Order, if you table the item, correct me if I'm wrong, if I vote against not tabling it, I can bring it back, correct?
You could bring
So
it back.
see, so even if, let's say there's 8 of us that do not want to see this meeting back or this item, but then Jackie or Ms. Ramos wants to bring it back, but you
Yes, you
did vote against not tabling it, you have the right to bring it back.
But
So-
that's on the person who wants to bring it back.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but they can still bring it back.
Yeah, but that's on them. In
Yes.
other words, you're,
But what if they have a second to bring back the item to continue a further discussion?
well, I think that, again, that goes into procedural. Like,
Yes.
if you know your procedures through Robert's Rules of Order, I mean, which you should, and not all of us know every single step of the way. I've learned my way around it throughout the years, but if you know your way around it, then, either, I would say in this section, it would only stay as a deferred, because you're already talking about the item. It already came in. And, I mean, because you're talking about an item and it took more than 30 minutes, defer it and bring,
Or you can table it, but if I vote against it, I can bring it back. And if I have a second, let's say Ms. I motioned to bring it back because I voted against it, and you also voted against it. You motion and you second it, so the item comes back.
Yeah.
So then we're here back again to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But immediately,
You can. Let's say we have an item. Let's say for an example, let's say this item number 3, the one that Cesar just reported, and let's say it's a regular item, and 30 minutes are there. You know what? I motion to defer this. I motion to table whatever, and me and Ms. Ramos vote against it. That no, we want to still discuss. We can still bring it back in that same meeting. Correct, Rusty?
Yeah, so the technical, Robert's Rules of Order is very technical. And what's commonly comes up, and if you look at the rules, it's, can you bring an item back in the same meeting when a decision has already been made? Or can you bring an item back at another meeting? If a decision's made and you want to bring it up in another, you have to be
In
on the
another
winning
meeting,
side.
You can for sure. I'm
Yeah.
not too sure in if the
same
same meeting.
Yeah, if
So-
you're on the winning side, you can.
If I'm in the losing. Me and Ms. Ramos are
Yeah.
on the losing side. There's 6 votes
To
or
table.
7 votes that voted to table it.
Mhm.
But me and Ms. Ramos still want to talk about it. I know that we could still bring it back in the following meeting. I'm not sure about that same meeting. I can motion, Chair, I motion to bring back item number 3 that Mr.
But you
Cesar.
have to get the votes, and those people might not vote with you.
Yeah, but you can second it, and then here we are back in discussion. I don't know, I figure it out. I mean, I'm just saying,
I would think
I'll
it
look
would
it up.
come back
And-
later after everything is
Yeah,
done.
and when you say table, because I've heard somebody say before, oh, Rusty, if you table it, you kill it and can never bring it back.
No, you-
That's not correct. Yeah,
That's not correct.
that's a misconception that some people have under Robert's Rules of Order.
Table means
a
that
board
whoever
member-
voted against it, of the tabling, has
Table
the
is you're
right to come
deferring.
back and bring it back.
Yeah, you're going to defer it.
Yeah.
so then should we just put defer?
You can put defer or table.
Or table.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would be fine.
And then it's
Some
gonna be
people
the
may
same
want to
thing.
use the word defer, some people may want to use the word table.
That's
Okay.
true.
I don't think, I think it's the same in looking at Robert's Rules of Order.
Mhm.
You
It's the
can
same.
table an item and still bring it back to the
Yes.
board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
But it has to
there
be the
is,
people that
there is,
we're on the losing side.
were on the losing side.
Yes.
Yes.
But
there,
at the same meeting, guys?
I
no,
don't know.
no, I think it has to be a
at the- at
separate
the-
At the
meeting.
next one.
next.
Yes.
Now, there's also a table indefinitely,
How about that one?
but I don't know that
Can
it's,
there be a table indefinitely, Rusty?
I don't know.
There can.
So I think
Robert's
we need to
Rules of
add the
Order.
Table indefinitely
Yeah,
as well.
definitely. That's when you're not setting a time frame. So if you want to table it to 2 months from now, regular board meeting that takes place 2 months from now, then you would table it definitely, or defer
time.
definitely. If you're going to defer indefinitely, nobody's making a decision at that particular time when the motion
you're
is
gonna bring
made
it back.
to bring it back at a certain period.
At a certain,
Yeah.
okay.
So it just comes back. Somebody can request it later, a month or 2 months.
So at
from now.
end of 30
Indefinitely is
minutes,
just setting no time frame.
at end of 30 minutes, a call of the vote, defer or table, or request more information can be made, right? Can be made.
Mhm.
Can,
And the request of more information would be brought back at either a later meeting or, because if you ask us for more information, we're not going to be able to get it to you that
and
night,
that's not,
Mhm.
right. Mhm. Yeah.
right? So it would have to be deferred with the request for additional data or information from staff or the attorneys or each other or whoever's presenting.
So how are we going to word it? At end of the 30 minutes, a call of the vote, defer or table with request for more information?
I would think so, by the appropriate party,
With
Yeah.
request,
because it may be more information from one of the board members.
correct, by the appropriate party.
Info by appropriate. Okay.
Okay. Good, Liz? I don't want to get you lost. What is that? Okay, so this is page 21, okay? Page 22, add to the conduct and order, any information by a board member during a meeting which is related to an agenda at the very top, okay? Let me just go back to my notes because I wrote this out. On my notes. Okay. Any information requested by a board member during a meeting which is related to an agenda item must be made in the form of a motion that requires a second in order to pass. What this means is that requested follow-up information, for example, you're in a meeting and you say, I want you to give me a list of all the vendors that exist in from 1945 all the way to 2010. But I'm the only one that's asking you for it. It should now be related to a motion, like an emotion has to be made in order for that to be expedited. Because that means I'm not the only one that's asking it. As a board, we're asking for that information, right?
Somebody
It
else
makes
is-
sense. We've had situations where one of us says, I need a list of all of the colleges that we deal with. Get it to me by tomorrow. And then you come the next meeting, you don't even show up. And then what happens? Like the information just sat there and nobody did anything with it. And we actually, I felt really bad because I feel really bad when that happens because somebody worked on that
Plain
list,
rude.
right? Somebody worked on that information. So this is only for information that we're requesting. Now, if you're requesting information prior to the meeting, then you contact the college president and that's the way, it's only for the meeting,
At the meeting.
at the meeting,
Okay.
okay?
During
Any
the-
information requested by a board member during a meeting,
Okay.
which is related to an agenda item, must be made in the form of a motion that requires a second in order to pass. Is good, Mr. Vela? So I know we ask you for a lot of stuff.
Oh, it is.
Ask you for a lot of stuff all the time. Okay, so that's a check mark on that one. The next item on the agenda is page 22 is the one that we just did right now. Okay? In the back, page 22, sticking with the section audience participation at board meetings. Mr. Muir?
If I can, Madam Chair, board members, what you'll notice is a lot of these procedures are pulled from board policies.
Correct.
So if you look at page 22 and part of 23, actually, most of those two pages come from a policy that's BD local, boy, dog, local. There is a substantive change in here that Mr. Cruz discussed with the board, and that is if you're going to have public comments, limit them to items that are on the agenda. That's
Right.
not in the current version of BD local. So one comment I wanted to make is whenever the final version of the amendments are approved, could be on Wednesday, we'll have to take a look at board policies and bring them back to the board and tweak them as needed so they're consistent with the procedures.
Correct.
But most of this is already, what you see here
It's
is
already
already in BD local, except for that public comments limited to
For the
what's
items
on the
that are
agenda.
posted
Yeah.
only in that.
And Madam Chair, having served on a previous board, I think that it is in the best interest of staff and I think of the board as well to make sure that public comments are limited to agenda items and that the agenda item be stipulated during public comment. So the notification cards to Ms. Bocanegra before should say this is in reference to agenda item X. And then that way, the individuals are introduced to the board based on agenda items so that you can refer back to your agenda so that you know what the public comment is about.
Definitely, totally agree with you on that. And I would make reference to look at the city council meetings. And because I learned a lot from looking at other meetings. And the silence does not say from the board, does not say that you don't care, but it is a procedural rule that you must follow not to answer public comment because it's just a comment. So you cannot come back and say, oh, I want to talk about that.
Correct.
No, we're going to talk about it when the item gets to it. Correct? And I would ask you as colleagues to look at other boards and look at their videos and see if it aligns to what we are doing, which I think we're superseding sometimes. We're doing much better. Because I hear the comments and there is no item on the agenda that relates to that. but just the comments are there because they could have been, those comments could have been given to admin or to the college president. So again, and then also the 3 minutes is the most that they had for each meeting. The meeting management is at the bottom part of page 22. When necessary for effective meeting management or to accommodate large numbers of individuals wishing to address the board, the presiding officer may make adjustments to public comment procedures, including adjusting when public comment will occur during the meeting, reordering agenda items, deferring public comment on non-agenda items, and continuing agenda items to a later meeting. Again, all of this was already on a policy, so it's just being placed in the procedure manual. On page 23, board's response, specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries, but the board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda posted with notice of this meeting. But that's why you have your card, your cue card is telling them it has to be about something that's on the agenda. Complaints and concerns, the presiding officer or designee shall determine whether an individual addressing the board has attempted to solve a matter administratively through resolution channels established by policy. If not, the board shall hear the complaint or concern and refer the individual to the appropriate policy to seek resolution. Employee complaints, student complaints, public complaints, and then disruption. The board shall not tolerate disruption of the meetings by members of the audience. Speakers or others who engage in disruptive behavior shall be asked to be removed. At one point in time, before you all came, there was a censure of an individual who came to the board and actually threatened us. And the college president censured that individual to never come back to the board, to the school. So, and the student did not understand, but it's all on policy. So that's how we follow, okay? So that is page 23 and 24, okay? I know I'm going over my time, Mr. Ahead, but I said 45 minutes,
You
but
said 45.
this is intense. I
No,
really like
but it's
this
good, it's
information,
good.
yes. Page 24 talks about non-attendance notification to the board secretary of absences is the most important one that I found from here. But under non-attendance on page 24, a trustee may be excused from a meeting by contacting the board secretary or his or her designee prior to the meeting and stating the reason for his or her inability to attend the meeting. I would say instead of inability, from his or her absence. So remove the word inability and then put absence, okay? Absence. To attend the meeting. During the meeting, the board shall be informed of the trustee's reason to be absent and determine whether to make a motion to excuse the absent trustee. Upon passage of the motion by a majority of the trustees present, the absent trustee shall be considered excused and the appropriate notation will be made in the minutes. If the motion is not passed or the above procedure is not followed, the minutes will reflect the absence is unexcused. Personal illness, family emergencies, military absences, family weddings, family graduation or school functions, funerals, bona fide business or employment obligations, and vacation trips shall constitute good cause for non-attendance at board meetings. Whether good cause exists for any other absence shall be determined by vote of the majority of trustees present. Do we agree with that statement? Especially the notification of the a member to the secretary.
Yes, and I'm sorry, does it say like in how many days, at least 24 hour, like, or does that, or can they call you in the morning or what's
I
the
mean,
deal?
well, I think that's a hard one because
Well,
let's say
because
let's say
there's an
right then and
emergency,
there
right?
I'm driving to
Yeah,
the
you're right.
college, you
You're
know,
right.
and I
guess it's just before
Yeah.
the meeting, right?
I think it's as long as it's before the meeting. I think
Some people know well in advance. Our traveling trustee, she notifies us like 3 or 4 months. I'm talking about Ms. Vela.
Yes.
I'm talking about Ms. Vela. She always notifies us like well in advance
Mhm.
if she has a trip that she needs to go on, and that will qualify under this section right here. So today's meeting, she advised me with an email. She sent me an email. She said, I'm unable to attend. So I duly noted it, and she was going to be absent.
Guys, and is this just for board meetings or is this also for committee meetings?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I would say
Because
for
what matter,
For both.
what, right?
But
the
then
attendance
you're
that-
gonna have to change the secretary and then put their,
and we can, well, after this one, we can say for any committee meeting, the chair
Contact the
must.
chair.
the chair must be.
So
contacted.
right below where it says the first paragraph of where the trustee is excused in absence,
Mhm.
a little asterisk, Elizabeth, that says, for committee meetings.
But just copy the exact wording when you're notifying the board secretary.
Mhm.
Just put there, just the same wording, but just put the committee
Contact.
meetings and then just add the board, the
Chair.
chair.
Yes,
Or because there it's also saying, or the assigned party that let's say you're not gonna be able to be here and you say, I'm gonna go ahead and tell Ms. Vela, I'm gonna tell everybody to contact Ms. Vela, then they could do the same thing. Like
Okay.
contact the chair or the designee. So just keep the same wording, just
so
change
I'm
that.
just gonna put like the first, for, and just put committee meetings, colon, a trustee may be excused from a meeting, by contacting the chair and/or designee.
Yeah.
Of committee.
Yeah.
Yes, Elizabeth?
Yeah, like in other words, she's saying that we could put excuse from a regular meeting or
Just add it up there.
committee meeting, like just,
Whatever you guys
And
want.
then after, board, secretary or committee chair. And that way you don't have to add more stuff.
And you can remove his or her. In today's world, you may,
Oh.
Designee.
you might
Yeah,
want to remove
designee.
pronouns.
Yeah, true, that's true.
Board secretary or designee
Or
Mhm.
board secretary or
prior to the meeting and stating the reason for,
Mhm.
for
the
absence.
absence.
Mhm.
For the absence,
That's it.
For absence to attend.
for the absence to attend the meeting. Or during the meeting. So then a trustee may be excused from a board meeting /
Committee meeting.
committee meeting by contacting the board secretary / committee chair
Prior to.
Mhm. The meeting and stating the reason for the absence.
prior to the meeting and stating the reason for the absence.
I know, I would just put period. I don't think you need the rest to attend
Right.
meeting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, Elizabeth, one more time. A trustee may be excused from a board meeting / committee meeting by contacting the board secretary / committee chair or designee prior to the meeting and stating the reason for the absence, period. Okay? Okay. Next item, attendance by video conference call. All members are required to attend meetings in person to vote and participate in discussion, debate, or any other board actions. Except during periods of disaster or emergency, attendance via video conference, phone call, or any other virtual method will not be permitted. Number 2, periods of disaster or emergency. I'll come back to it. Board members may attend a regular, special, or emergency meeting via video conferencing or phone call during periods of disaster or emergency as authorized by state law and/or the orders or proclamations of the Governor of Texas. Board members attending such meetings may vote and engage in discussion and debate. So, number 2, letter I want to say it's I, but I want to change it to an A. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 all deal with the periods of
Or
disaster
disaster.
or emergency.
Mhm.
So attendance is going to now be something that everyone needs to attend. And I think it's really important for us to be all physically present for the meetings because it's so hard to have a conversation with the rest of the team if I'm somewhere else. And if I know I'm gonna be somewhere else, and it goes back to the top part. If I'm gonna be absent, I'm gonna be absent. I cannot attend the meeting. So why would I stop what I'm doing wherever I'm at in the middle of the beach or whatever, and then pull up my, that's why I went, so that I would get away from my computer. Like, that's how I see it. Like, sorry, I gotta be out,
Well,
so.
at the end of the day, the meeting is still live. So if you wish, and like you say, Jackie's on the beach, you could still watch it.
Yeah,
I mean, and jot down whatever notes you have and contact somebody by when you come back. So
But you're not going to be a part of the meeting, or, you know what I mean?
you
don't vote.
you're part as a viewer only.
As a viewer.
you were
Yeah.
owning. Mhm.
You
Yes.
can't vote and you're not,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not
You're
Yeah.
there.
If you're not present, you
you're
can't
not
vote.
attending.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Are we okay with that?
Mhm.
Okay, that's page 24, non-attendance notification to the board secretary of absences. 24 and 25, attendance by video conference call only during periods of disaster or emergency.
Yes.
We're okay? Yeah. ¿Verdad?
But I'm thinking,
Sí, it's up here.
Yeah.
Where did I get it? I just,
127.
okay. Page 26 and 27, communications, addition of communications between the board. Page 26 talks about if employees, students, or citizens bring a concern or complaint to an individual board member, the board member shall refer them to the college president or designee. Number one, the college president will communicate with all board members periodically via the board information packet. The college president will communicate requested information to all board members in a reasonable time. The college president will distribute to all board members any information requested by the board, for the board, by the board president or a board member, in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, and because deliberations include one-way communication spoken by one member of the board and heard by the rest of the quorum. Of a quorum, board members may not communicate with four or more other board members for purposes of soliciting votes in support of or in opposition to items of business that may come before the board. The board president shall communicate with the college president on a regular basis. Individual board members cannot speak in an official capacity outside the boardroom or call or attend meetings as a representative of the board without prior authorization of the board. The board individually or collectively shall not discuss public business or public policy over which the board has control with employees of the college district other than the college president and other employees designated from time to time by the college president unless the college president is notified in advance and agree to such discussion. The board individually or collectively shall not discuss with anyone regarding an employee's employment, assignment, reassignment, salary, and benefits, evaluation, or other terms and conditions of employment with any employee other than the college president and his or her designee, unless the college president is notified in advance and agrees to such discussion. Further, the board agrees to address and resolve all disputes. And then number 9, individual board members shall not meet with or discuss college district business with vendors, current or prospective. Okay? That is all information that's provided again in the policies. So we're just putting it here in the procedural manual so that you can refer back to it. And of course, have everyone make sure they carry this as their Bible.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
again, here on number 8, we have his or her. Should we take that out and just put the college president or designee?
Or designate. Mhm. Yes.
And take out his or her?
On the same sentence, you mean?
It's, yeah, you don't
Yeah,
need that.
You don't
Yes,
need
ma'am.
that. No, you don't.
If it's okay with you all, we'll go through and take out all the his or hers.
His or hers.
Yes.
Mhm. Yes.
Just
Um,
update it to us.
and-
I
and
think
we'll-
that's a lot better. If
Yes.
Ms. Bocanera could just go through it and every his or her just delete
Slash it out.
Okay, so we have come to the point in the meeting where we have discussed all of the blue ones. As far as the paper that I gave you, we've discussed all the blue ones. Now we're gonna go back and discuss the red ones. And this is nothing new. Again, this was discussed at the retreat in January. So what we did is we tried to insert it into the procedural manual and then place it there and then Some of it is something that we've already seen before, most of it. Board composition, page 8 and 9, board composition, length of terms and eligibility. All of this is information that leads for explanation of how many members we have, that it's at large, unless it changes, and when do each of the positions get elected. Okay, so that's really basically at the very top. And then how are you eligible to be a board member at the bottom? And then it comes from the references of LCBBA legal on page 9. Okay, that one is really simple. It's just copy and paste from the
Policy
from the
From the
policy.
policies.
Questions?
No, ma'am.
No?
No, ma'am.
Okay. The next one is page 16. Page 16, as discussed in the retreat, this is called the member decorum and social media policy. I think that we've become
Desensitized.
there's so many things happening and it's ever changing, but I noticed it with some of the other organizations that are out there. There's a fine line between the social media and then how do we respond to certain issues. And so I feel like Mr. Cruz brought us some really good information. And so really simple that we've already talked about before in the retreat is the member decorum and the social media policy. I think number one, in the spirit of maintaining the decorum of meetings and public forums and as role models for the community, staff, and students of the college district, all board members are expected to refrain from embarrassing or berating other board members. That's, I mean, I think we forget that we need to be empathetic towards each other's needs. So I think number one, we need to be reminded. Number two, as community figures, board members shall be held to the same professional and ethical standards that apply to board meetings, public forums, in their personal use of social media. The term social media includes, but is not limited to, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Okay, page 16. Number three, a board member's social media platform should clarify that communications are being made as an individual board member and not as an official college district spokesperson. Board members' social media posts should reflect their own views, not the official position of the board. Board members should include a disclaimer in their social media accounts stating the views expressed are their own and do not reflect the views of the board. Number four, board members shall avoid discussing college district business with a quorum of the board on social media. To avoid the risk of violating the Texas Open Meetings Act, board members shall not use online communications as a vehicle for communicating with each other outside of board meetings. Number five, board members shall avoid social media communications which may be perceived as a predetermination on a pending board matter. Number six, board members shall not disseminate college district content in their possession through social media which has not already been distributed by the college district to the public. Number seven, social media communications about board meeting outcomes and discussions shall be limited to information which was disseminated during the open portions of the meeting. And that number seven, we don't have to take care of that because that is posted the next day on Facebook, sometimes at night. So just remember that, okay? I do like to share, and I share important events that are taking place. Board members shall avoid posting or sharing content via social media which is lewd, obscene, harassing, defamatory, or otherwise inappropriate and which may reflect negatively upon the college district. Failing to avoid position or sharing such content may expose the board and board member to damages for defamation. Sharing, as used in this section, includes but is not limited to reposting, retweeting, liking, linking to, or otherwise discussing. If a community member posts something that is potentially lewd, obscene, harassing, or defamatory on a board member's social media account, he or she should first print the screen to document the communication and then work with the college president to address and possibly remove the post. I have done that before.
And many other colleges are going to this verbiage, just
Yes, to
to
protect
prevent,
both,
to prevent the board members and the institution itself.
definitely. Number nine, harassing or discriminatory communications involving college district students should be reported to the board president and college president immediately. Number 10, when using a college district issued electronic device or college district electronic communication system, board members shall comply with the college district's acceptable use policy. Number 11, any concerns that a board member may have about another board member's violation of this operating procedure shall be addressed through the process outlined in operating procedure expressing concern about another member's performance. And number 12, board member communications on social media platforms about Laredo College business are subject to the Texas Public Information Act. What does that mean? They can take us for all we have. Our phone, our social medias are open to being reviewed.
Right.
So this is member decorum and social media policy, new policies and procedures. Questions on that?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
item number 8, third line down, in green there it states, failing to avoid position. The word position should be posting. and not
Yes,
position.
post, to avoid posting.
Yes, posting or sharing. So instead of the word position, it should be.
Correct.
posting.
Thank you for
Yes.
failing to avoid posting or sharing such content may expose the board and board member to damages for defamation. Okay. Colleagues, anything else?
No.
Good.
That's good.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That's page 16. We've done that one.
May I just add something? I
Yes.
really appreciate this item because I think that in today's world of litigation, there is so much litigation going on that creates a endless cost to the college, and that could have been avoided if there was some more appropriate decorum on social media accounts. And we've seen some really long litigations at other institutions because of social media carelessness. And so thank you for adding this. I think that employees will appreciate it. I think it will certainly help the institution a great deal.
I think also the community appreciates when we maintain some sort of civility. Because oftentimes we forget when we're in the middle of reviewing our Facebook posts and stuff, and we forget that we do serve a purpose, and we have been duly elected by the community to be the representatives for them, right? And so I think that this is the time changes. The times are changing, and we need to do this. It is happening in the schools. It's happening even when our
lots of
students
boards.
get into some altercations. They go back to their phones, and they don't even realize that they can look through your phone, right? So this is a student, right? Like a student can look through the phone. They can request the information. So we're held to a higher standard. Period.
And your phones are open, are
Part of the Texas Open Meetings Act.
that's right. And so your phones are also accessible through court order for any kind of, for everything on your
Right, if
telephone.
anybody were to
So,
ask.
Yes.
sorry, I know you didn't sign up for that, but that's part of, but that's part of the gig
We should
here.
put that on the eligibility and requirements when,
Subject to
just-
open meetings.
yeah, subject to Open Meetings Act. Okay, page 31, expressing concerns about another member's performance. Individual board members are encouraged to express their concerns about another board member's performance directly to that member. I don't know about that one. Why can't we address it like with the college, with not the college president, but the board president? Like, why would I go to that one and say,
I don't know.
like, I have a concern with you? Like, what is my concern? I should bring it to the
Or maybe
president.
because they're saying, hey, maybe we can just talk about it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what
Was
you
this
said,
Juan's
and
recommendation?
I don't really see it
This
that
is
way, I
Juan.
I
guess.
think so.
I mean,
That.
you know what
Oh.
that maybe we can talk about it first.
Amongst yourself?
I think it's okay. I mean, if somebody feels uncomfortable or has a concern or comment or something that they want to talk about with one other board member, not more than one other, I think that there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. I think communicating is the key.
Yeah, definitely. I
And
do
it just
agree with
says
you.
anyway, they're encouraged. It doesn't say you must.
Okay, so I can go to him. I can go to you and tell you that I have
Anyway,
a concern, right?
yeah.
In case I'm scared.
I,
Was that
way
recommendation,
that I
was
feel
this
on this-
recommendation made by Mr.
Mr.
Cruz?
Cruz, yes, yeah.
the way I feel about this is we're grown-ups. We can,
We can
Discuss.
talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can
yeah.
talk about it.
Okay, no, and I like Ms. Newsom's, input, which is communication is key. But not all of us, like.
Yeah.
Maybe some of us can get a little bit upset, right? But sometimes we just need somebody else's assistance. But like if Erica says, we're encouraged
Mhm.
to talk to them and say, you know what, I see this as something that maybe we can modify and so forth. So
We have a difference in opinion on it.
I guess we're all educators at heart.
Mhm.
Board members will not take concerns about fellow board members to the college president. We
Right.
don't go to Dr. Ramirez.
Mhm.
Okay? If addressing the issue directly with a member does not resolve the concern, then the discussion with the board president is appropriate. The board president shall discuss the concern with the individual in question on behalf of the reporting board member or shall moderate a discussion between the board members. If a quorum of the board is involved, the meeting must be posted and conducted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. The board president shall remind the board member whose behavior is in question about the adopted code of ethics and discuss how the questionable behavior does not comply with the code. Their discussion will identify more appropriate alternatives to the questionable behavior or refer the board member to policies or procedures that outline approved ways to deal with the issue that prompted the questionable behavior. If the board member in question does not believe his or her behavior is in conflict with the board's code of ethics, and agenda items specifying evaluation of individual board members' performance may be listed on the agenda for an upcoming board meeting. The matter will be discussed by the full board in closed session in an attempt to clearly identify behavior that may be inappropriate and discuss possible solutions or alternative approaches that may have a more positive impact on team cohesion and effectiveness. If the concern involves the board president, you, a board member may discuss his or her concerns with the board vice president. Board members will not speak negatively about another member, college president, or staff in the community. Board members shall not engage in conduct constituting discrimination or prohibited conduct as defined under board policy DIAA or DIB local. Board members who believe they have experienced prohibited conduct or have been discriminated against may report such conduct to the board president. A report of prohibited conduct or discrimination against the board president may be made to the vice president. Upon receipt of such a report, the board president or vice president, in consultation with legal counsel, shall determine whether to appoint a third party to conduct an investigation of the allegations. It sounds serious, but we've never dealt with it. Like it's been good. We've had good working relations.
But I'm glad it's in place in case
Yes.
something happens, because hopefully nothing will ever happen and we will continue to have
Yeah.
great rapport with each other and be able to work things out.
And just
But it
like the
does,
times
that
are
way you don't have to
changing, I
worry,
think
you don't have to
we
scramble.
change with it. You know what I mean? Like we
We
add
just
it.
be
Not that
proactive.
it's ever happened. I don't think it's gonna happen. But violation of board operating procedures is page 32. Upon inclusion on the agenda and public posting in accordance with the law, the board may convene an executive session to discuss a violation of these board operating procedures or other board policies so long as the deliberation is confined to the duties, discipline, or complaint against a board member. The board member may request that the deliberation be conducted in open session. And as a consequence of these deliberations, the board may elect to do nothing or may reconvene in open session and vote to A, publicly reprimand the board member, B, recommend additional training for the board member, C, discontinue board members' committee or officer assignment, or D, disallow board member from entering college district property without prior approval with the exception of board meetings. Note, nothing provided herein shall be construed to alter, modify, or limit in any way the rights of college district personnel and members of the public to file complaints against the board or board members under applicable board policies. That's page 32. Questions, comments?
just a quick comment.
Yes.
A lot of this stuff, again, it's not something new. This is something that has been adopted by other institutions. Let it be known there was a board member in a sitting board that was not allowed to visit campuses or something like that.
Right.
And so this is nothing new. and this has happened, and I think it's important.
Mhm.
So, and it's just because, not because we are board members means that we could go and enter any building or any office, because that's not our job.
Right.
And that's micromanaging. We have one employee and one employee only. So just putting it out.
Thank you, sir. Page 35 is a culmination of all of this put together, and are we willing to follow it? The Laredo College Board Confidentiality Agreement. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I am going to ask you to look at where it says confidential information. Third paragraph, this includes but is not limited to information related to Laredo College student health information, real estate or property transactions, consultations with the board's attorney. Number 4, the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of a Laredo College employee, a grievance against a Laredo College employee, the deployment or specific occasions for implementation of security personnel or devices, or number 7, any other item authorized by law. And then the last paragraph, additionally, the board member acknowledges that in receiving confidential information, they commit to ensuring the continued confidentiality of such information. The board member is aware that in accordance with the Texas Government Code 552.352, disclosing confidential information would constitute official misconduct and be considered a misdemeanor punishable by either a fine of about $1,000, confinement in the county jail for up to 6 months, or both. And then we're asking that if everyone's in agreement and this is voted on and we place it into the procedural manual, that the board member puts their printed name and signs it and turns it in to Elizabeth. So questions on page 35? None whatsoever?
The only comment that I have is if let's say, like, I just got elected right now for my second term,
Mhm.
is it just a one time for 6 years, or is it annual that you have to sign this?
I would say as the policy changes. Because if we add something, you
Well,
need to sign it
But
again.
the policy for us only.
Well, yeah, like if you're adding something to the procedure manual, you have to agree to what's in here.
So then this could be 2 or 3 times a year if something gets added.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think we need to disclose that, put a little comment there that,
Okay.
and like this documentation should be how
Updated.
to-
Or
updated.
signed as it is updated.
Yes,
Okay.
there you go.
So this document,
Upon changes
Upon
made.
changes to the
this
board.
document shall be signed upon any
Changes.
/ all changes
Policies, right?
occurring to this document.
Yeah, and then that way,
This document shall be signed upon any and all changes occurring to this document, or I took off to this document. Any changes occurring, period.
yeah, that's
So this document shall be signed upon, but that goes at the very bottom, Liz, at the very bottom. So if we have an update, then they need to sign.
Last updated on. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Last updated on.
Yeah. Yes. And maybe, yeah.
And I think in the, do we have it in the front where it says last updated? Board approved, okay.
Right here. In the front. Okay.
Oh, LC Board approved.
Okay.
October 30th.
LC board adopted, but that's the first time we adopted. So where does it say that,
Well, no, it'll change now to,
Whatever.
board approved, update on particular date. That'll change, that description down there will change to say LC Board approved update on, and then it'll say March 26,
Whatever,
2025. Should
Once it
it,
is
okay,
approved.
so a
Should it happen?
suggestion I have is to keep this forever and ever here, because this is the inception of it. This is when it was
and
first.
then on the pages.
And then up the pages on the inside, like below the table of contents, is when the updates are happening, okay? Because this way, we will all know that those that were here on this particular date contributed to this part. But then those that were here on the dates listed here of the updates are contributed to the updates, okay? Okay, so my last
We could
question,
put a sheet, we could put a sheet in the front of the preface where we start to document historically the updates,
true? I think that would work out well.
right?
It would help out. Because that way you see the way that the changes are taking place or anything that
Or
you add.
additions.
Yes. Okay, so, fellow committee members, we will be providing this information that we did to the rest of the board. And any questions or any discussions that might happen at the board meeting, we can come back and discuss it with them. We will not review every single one of them because that is up to us to be able to review it prior to the board meeting. So Elizabeth will provide us with this updated item to the rest of the board. And shall we have any questions or any concerns, I would like to go the same way that I did today and just say, you know what? The blue ones, there were minor changes. Hopefully you saw them. The red ones, please make sure that you address these, that you have read them and that you have seen them. Because we will take it all together at the same time. If there's any issues or any concerns, any of us can pull out an item, okay? And have that further discussion there at that time, okay? Questions? None whatsoever? Anybody? Any
So
input?
these are our recommendations.
These are our recommendations as a
policy
committee. Yeah,
committee.
as a committee, okay? Are we all in agreement that this is something that we can present at the board meeting? Because I'm the one that's gonna talk, but for the most part, did you like the way that I separated it for you
I
all?
did like that.
Okay, you like that? And then
Yes.
you saw how the changes took
Very
place and everything is already
organized.
listed.
A question.
Go
The
ahead.
The only question that I have is, so if, I mean, ever, right? I mean, I'm not gonna be like, oh, can I have the documents? Oh. Can you hear me? Yeah. Can I have the documents from 1940, all the way until right now? But in all fairness, so if I wanted to put an agenda item, I have to have,
A second.
is that something that's, I mean,
What do you mean have to have?
yeah, you have to have a second board member sponsor you?
Well,
So
and-
we don't have like a voice on our own as individuals?
You do, but what we're trying to tell you is because this has happened, and this is one of the reasons why Mr. Cruz went ahead and gave us his recommendation. The reason for that was because you do have, and I'm not saying you are, right? But you could run into board members that go rogue, right? And there's nothing that staff can stop them, right? Because they're gonna listen to whatever board members want. So the reason why he came up with that was because there were a lot of times that you had a board member that would request, like Ms. Ramos just mentioned, your request is something that we cannot be able to give you, and we're not going to comply because you're going to want me to give you every invoice from 1940 to today. I mean, we don't even have, that we can't even have that much of an archive to go back, right? So you're putting staff in very bad situations that you're setting them up to fail pretty much, right? But the reason why they're doing that as well is because of like the comment that I told you. Here you have, let's say, Esteban that is wanting to, I don't know, request, I want all of this information, and you have staff going, like crazy trying to get it ready for you, and you don't even have a second, to be able to get you that information. And you had man hours galore trying to give you that presentation. And, okay, we're at item number X from Mr. Rangel. Why motion that I want to know this? And then you don't even have a second. And it dies out. You don't put staff between a rock and a hard place to not even get you. But I do get your point, what you're saying. I don't have a voice by myself. You do. I think we all do. But I just think that I don't foresee that you're gonna have a problem to put an item on the agenda if it's just a very simple item. You're gonna have an issue if you're gonna wanna, I don't know, let me give you an example. Mr. Rangel, I wanna put an item, I wanna give a 10% raise across the board to the whole college. You're putting the board members in a very bad position, and I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I mean, if we had billions, pues tengan, here's a 10% raise. But that is an item that you're putting board members in a really bad spot,
So-
because I'm gonna vote no, because it's like, we can't afford it.
So can I say something now?
Yeah.
I mean, we can stay here all night and talk about a million things that a rogue board member can, or just somebody that just wants to, I don't know, maybe look great in front of all faculty and staff and
That
say,
could be
hey, I want everybody to have,
yeah.
which I would love for y'all to do that, right? But I think that we just need to, I don't know, I would like to revisit that, just that one out of everything here. I'm in agreement with everything else other than that and the way it's written. I would like to revisit that particular part
Item.
and maybe find a way to reword
Reword
it.
Well,
So that if a board member, again, I mean, I would maybe get legal counsel here to help with this, because I mean, I don't know how, I would need maybe also some time to think about how to write it, but I would like to be able to bring an item to, to an agenda, something, of course, of value to everyone in our community, or to value to the students, or value
the
to the
institution.
employees, to the institution, and I may be a standalone person, or maybe I don't want to go and have to get a sponsor. I mean, what if it's just Lizzie Newsom wants to put this agenda item on there? I may not get any support from anybody, but at least the community, the board, whoever comes to the meetings, whoever watches the meetings, know that I'm out here, at least your voice is being heard, and this is out, there's a lot of things going through my mind. So this is not, I mean, really the time that I'd like to discuss it, but I'd like to revisit just that one little part and see if there's a way that we can reword it where we're including, you can't go off the far.
Well, actually, this is the place where we should be discussing.
Yeah.
This is,
Okay.
you're doing it in the right place.
Yeah. This is an opportunity for us to have that conversation. We can,
Okay, well,
say,
I don't know.
How, and I get your point, and that's a very good point. I really feel that the way that you're letting us,
Expressing yourself.
yeah, that's super important, because that means this is working. The whole concept of it is working. The committee, right? The committee is where we talk about the things so that we can stand united when we present at the board meeting, right? So we have an issue, we have a concern. We can always pull it out. We can always wait for it for another opportunity. We can come back and revisit it if that is something that one of us feels, or all of us agree, and we're with you. Before, I will tell you that before 2014, 2015, 2016, there was, I believe, if I could be wrong, but I remember that I needed to ask somebody to sponsor me prior to Dr. Solis being the president. I remember that was part of the policy. I think it's before 2014, they had to request that 2 people participate. And then we changed it to 1 person. And then I think we came back and we put it again for 2 people, and then we changed it again. So the changing comes from us. Like, we are the ones that are enacting the change, right? So if it is going to be difficult for the person who wants to put an item on the agenda, how can we make it easier? Not necessarily for you, but for all of us, right? So how would that help us? How can we help them, number one, the administration? And how can we help each other to ensure that something that we feel really strong about is going to be put on the agenda. And I wholeheartedly believe that whatever items we bring to the agenda, the majority of the items on the agenda are from the college, the majority, right? Very few items come from us because we're the ones that listen to what's going to be placed on the agenda. But yes, like an example was like the trustee one, the student trustee. Nobody agreed with it. And I was disappointed because I thought definitely somebody would agree with me. But they didn't. And it was okay. Could I have turned around and done more homework or more research? Yes. So I'm in agreement with Ms. Newsom. I think that we should put a pause on this particular section right here and leave it as it is for right now. And
Okay.
then come back.
Well, I mean, at
What
the
do
end
you-
of the
what is
day,
it?
it's your all's, it's
Yeah,
your all's
mhm.
committee. Or let's just, why don't we do a couple of things? Why don't, like Ms. Newsom says, I'm not ready for it right now. Why don't you sleep on it? You can go ahead and call our legal counsel tomorrow, ask them, Mr. Muir, what about if we word it like this? Mr. Muir, what if we do this? Mr. Muir, what if we that? And you guys could to both find a good ground, and then based on that, then communicate with Ms. Ramos and say, this is what we came out with. Are you okay with that? Because I'm going to make the motion to word it XYZ in the board meeting. And then that way, you find a common ground, and hopefully the whole board is okay with that ground. If for whatever reason you do not find a ground by here and Wednesday, you can just say, Ms. Ramos, I'm just letting you know, I'm going to motion to defer this item to the next board meeting. Hopefully we do find something. So I think we could maybe work out on that, and I think that should work. And we'll find a ground. The only last thing that I do want to say, and I'm happy that you're bringing this up. I just want to tell you that, like, in 6 years, I've never posted an item because I always had a really good relationship with my president. Let it be the judge, let it be Ms. Cepeda, that I would ask him, can we work on this? Can we work on it? Just like when I met with you, I told you, like, hey, bring me stuff, whatever you feel that hey, I really want this program. I found out that this college is doing, and I want to. I mean, that's why we're colleagues, right? So there were a couple of things that I brought up to the judge or Ms. Cepeda, and we worked it out. So, but of course, let's not handcuff you or any board member,
Anybody.
It's not just
And
about me,
but
guys.
the
I
relationship that you'll have with your colleagues and even the board president is going to help you move whatever agenda you want. So because let's say you want to do something, and I could tell you, look, let's meet with Dr. Ramirez. I think they've already brought this up and it didn't work, and let her explain to you why. And we'll go from there, right? But like I said, let's go ahead and sleep on it, talk to legal counsel, and then figure out if there is a good ground. And if there is, talk to Ms. Ramos, see, this is what I want to do, or defer it. And we'll go from
I
there.
would like to make a recommendation to you. As the chair of this committee, I would say, I would want you to have more time. Definitely. I would want you to have more time with this particular subject because you have a vested interest, just like everybody else. So I would want you not to be in a hurry, and then tomorrow, in all the craziness of the job that we have, to say, I need to meet the deadline to speak to Mr. Muir right away. Have the,
We also have a meeting tomorrow.
yes, we also have a
committee
meeting.
meeting.
Yes.
yes.
And
So
we have leadership, Mr. Rangel.
Yeah, I know. Tell me
Yes,
about it.
definitely. So I would
Um,
say that I would make a recommendation to just pull this section
Just
out,
that section is
just
all
this
I was
section,
asking.
pull it out.
And give it some
We'll
time.
talk about it later on. It's been functioning. The way it has, it's been functioning. If we're gonna change it or we're gonna alter it or move it, it's just that little paragraph, page 19 for your notes. If a board member wishes to have an item on an agenda for a meeting, the member shall require a second board member to sponsor the written request. All of that paragraph
Mira.
shall submit a written request. But we're gonna put a pause on the whole paragraph
That's why we're gonna
Yeah.
return the language to what it was.
to what it was,
To its
yes,
original.
to its original.
Remove update.
Which
and-
is, if a board member wishes to have an item on an agenda for a meeting, the member shall submit a written request that a subject be included on the agenda for a meeting to the board president and college president with a copy to the college district
Everything
attorneys.
else in blue
via
is not
email.
gonna be on there anymore. It's gonna
Yeah.
be normal.
So it's gonna stay the same. Okay,
We can do that. One of the
Yeah.
things,
Yes.
one of the things that we could also look at, and hear me out, maybe this will help Damian's staff. What if we leave it the way it is with one vote, but maybe we amend the one that we currently have and put there? Let's just say I bring an item as a trustee and says, I want the possibility of, I don't know, I'm gonna go back to the raise, the possibility of a raise to employees. Or no, that, yeah.
no, yeah, because if
Okay.
they don't agree with
Well,
you,
yeah, like, we're not gonna, don't expect staff to be ready for your item and allow us to deliberate based on what you want to put. Let's say I put there, I want to give a raise to staff. Okay, well then what's your percentage that you're looking at? I want to give a 10% raise. You know, we can't do a 10%. How about, we look at this and that. And based on that, staff is not going to be ready for you. Because my concern is just having staff, going like crazy trying to get whatever you want ready, and maybe allow them to come back based on our deliberation. Okay, well, they talked about a raise. They're looking at a 1%, a 5%, whatever, and allow them then to come back with a recommendation. Let it be a raise. Let's just say we're talking about opening up a new program. Let's say, I want to open up I don't know, give me the
co-reporting.
court reporting. I want to open up a court reporting program. Okay, don't expect staff to be ready to, they could be ready a little bit, with certain things, but not to come back with a full report that they're going to be able to answer each question. That way they could at least allow us to deliberate on, okay, so this is where the board wants to head to. Because based on what Ms. Benavides said, based on what Mr. Rangel said, based on what Ms. Newsom said, then next month, then they can come back based on what we decided where we wanted to head.
But
I don't know.
I'm gonna interject before I let you answer. That, the submission of my request for an item should be to confer with you prior to we put it on the
Mhm.
agenda.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's my checks and balances. You come back to me and you say, you want 10%? There's no way. Come on, let's talk about this. That's where the board member, me, whoever it is that wants that, comes back and sits down, not only with you, and the college president. And the college president is gonna tell me, look, this. But I really want it. Now, that ensures that that member is not gonna say, I make a motion to give everybody 10%. That has happened before.
I know,
But the chair has to ensure that that discussion takes place with the requesting board member.
Mhm.
And this protects it, because there's no way that I can just, again, now you're gonna go back and you're gonna misbehavior. Go back over here and then say, you went rogue right on in the board meeting when I told you that there's no money, and why are you embarrassing everybody? Right? So checks and balances, right? We have the checks and balances. I honestly think we should keep one person here because he is the checks and balances before. If we can't have, like you said, the communication with each other that says that I'm not ready to present it to the board, I might be ready with all my paperwork, but it might not be the right time, right? So that's where it ensures line of communication is open. The chair of the board is actively participating with the board member to make sure that the item is going to be placed on the agenda, not because I want it on the agenda, but because it is duty. It's the duty of it's the right time, right? It could happen another point.
I was just gonna say that is, and again, I don't know everything that's in all of these books at all, by no means yet, and I probably never will. But isn't there something that states that if a board member were to ask for some, crazy, excessive, isn't there a clause somewhere, or doesn't it state somewhere that, the departments, the, administrators that would have to provide this information, or even the college president, whoever, we need to give them time. Yes, okay, that agenda item will be on there, but not right now, or, it'll be put on there, but that we're giving the, I'm gonna make this up,
Or you can
doctor.
request it. You cannot expect
Right,
it in a
right,
day or 5
Right,
days
yeah,
or.
like, isn't there something written where?
Well, there is, and I think that if there's a request that is what I would consider excessive or out of line, and if any one of the board members made a request like that, I would confer with the board president and the attorney, and one of us or all of us together would contact that board member and say, okay, what is it that you're really after? What is it that you really are trying to get at? And then how do we, before we open, an investigation, or we start a new program, we need to take a look at the feasibility studies. And so all of that is going to take time and effort and money. And so are we ready to go down that road at this moment in time?
Because my item might not be ready for presentation.
That's correct. And so,
My item might not be ready.
and we may not have
wouldn't wanna
enough
be
time to
unfair
get it
anybody
ready.
either, like,
So,
No,
so
that's
I-
not what I'm
I
trying
would
to
say
say.
leave it alone. That's
Yeah, I would say, leave it alone,
30
just the way it
minutes.
is, right? It's,
So there is no.
my 30 minutes are up. My 30 minutes are up. Okay, any other question? Thank you, Ms. Newsom. I really
Before you
appreciate that.
close,
You're
I'm not a part of this committee too, Jackie, Ms.
No, I
Ramos,
know.
but very good job.
Thank you.
And I know you had help from Mr. Muir, so thank you, Mr. Muir, but
Thank you,
really,
sir.
really good job.
And Elizabeth too. I really
Yeah.
have to thank Elizabeth because that was my guiding force. So I really
A lot of
appreciate
work,
that.
guys.
Come board meeting, we will not be presenting that item. So it will be removed from there. It'll stay the same. Any other questions or concerns? I really appreciate all of your help and
Ma'am.
support on this.
Yes, before you adjourn the meeting, are there any recommendation? This is the first time, I think we're gonna try to make this into,
Like a little,
Yeah.
I don't
to.
have we don't own curved tables. So by having it curved, the tables were a little bit off. And so if you all are okay with that, we're gonna try that for tomorrow's committee meetings so that we can curve the tables just a little bit. But that means that the edges aren't all gonna match.
match.
So, but,
Okay.
because
I
it's
mean-
hard for me to see down the
Yeah,
table.
we have to be
Yeah,
a little
like,
bit curved, yeah.
yeah.
So try to find something, unless you have individual tables.
Well,
I don't know
Unless
if you
Mr.
do.
Vela helps me buy a curved table, then
No, we don't spend any money on that.
Like maybe individual tables, or I don't know. I just figured out because it is kind of hard to be able
It
to
is
see.
weird.
So that way, just because of the way we're, to be able to run the meeting, I don't want Ms. B to be like, I tried to, and you never looked at me, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, and I think that would be a good
Yeah.
idea.
Other than that, are there any other recommendations for us
I
for
think
For
you
the
guys did a really
remainder
good
of the
job.
meetings.
I like
Very good.
this.
No, I'm fine. I like it. It's nice.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, we started the construction over there, so the parking is kind of messy and so I think this is gonna work out
It'll
nice.
work.
Really well.
Yes, and
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Spacious, there's plenty of room, yeah.
Very good. Okay, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting
Nice.
so that we can go eat.
Second table.
It is 7:39 and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
45.
But